All right, guys, today we're going to be going over calories in versus calories out. We're going to be focusing on the calories out portion of the equation for fat loss and how we can maintain our fat loss as we get deeper into our calorie deficit. So starting us off, when it comes to calories out, there are four things that are at play here. Those things are your BMR, your NEAT, your TEF, and your EAT. Now, these are all acronyms. Your BMR stands for your basal metabolic rate. This is going to be the amount of calories that your body uses in order to be alive. You can think of things like pumping your heart, breathing, your brain function is all going to be using energy in the form of calories, and that is going to come from your BMR. Next, we have our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, this is a fancy way of saying the amount of actions you do throughout the day that you don't even think of. Things like me moving my arms, moving my face, my eyebrows up and down are all part of your NEAT, and that is going to also burn calories. Now, it's not going to burn a ton of calories, only about 10% or less than 10% of your total daily calories are going to come from that, so it's not a huge thing that you're going to run into when it comes to fat loss. The next, we have our TEF, or our thermic effect of food. Now, when your body ingests food, it digests the food. That process of digesting food burns calories, so you can think of this as kind of like a tax on the amount of food that you're putting in. So it takes energy to digest that energy and get energy out of the food that we're trying to eat. So the thermic effect of food is going to be how many calories our body burns through digestion. Now, you're not going to burn a ton of calories through this either, depending on what kind of foods that you eat. Now, the higher your food is in things like protein and fiber, the slower it is going to take to digest, because your body has more fiber to then digest, and that takes more energy. And obviously that's going to account for using more calories out of your total daily expenditure. And the last thing we have is our exercise activity thermogenesis. So our exercise throughout the day, how much cardio are we doing? How much strength training are we doing? And that is going to be accounting for less than 10% of our total energy expenditure. So you're not burning a lot of calories through exercise, you're not burning a lot of calories through non-exercise. The main thing really is going to be our BMR and how we can increase that in order to consistently maintain weight loss. So now that we know what our body does with the energy, how do we use this to lose fat, right? So the first thing we want to look at when it comes to the calories outside of the equation is we obviously want to reduce the amount of calories we're taking in. Now, when we decrease our calories, our BMR does tend to slow down. This is because as we lose muscle mass, our basal metabolic rate decreases, because maintaining muscle mass is a part of the equation that our BMR is in control of. So how much muscle mass you have on your frame directly increases or decreases the amount of energy you need to sustain your current physique. So if you have more muscle mass, your BMR is going to be higher. If you have less muscle mass, your BMR is going to be lower. Now, the next thing is our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, obviously, this is less than 10% of the total energy that you're burning throughout the day, but this number will also decrease as you decrease your calories, because your body is naturally going to have less energy and it's not going to fidget and twitch as much. So you're going to have less energy and you're going to feel more tired, and you're going to reserve a lot of that energy for other things like your BMR. So this will also decrease as you decrease your calories. And this is why people run into things like plateaus, because, oh, if I just decrease my calories by about 500, well, now my body is going to adapt to that and adjust accordingly. So you have to do things to be proactive about your calories out, which we're going to get to in a second. The next thing is going to be the thermic effect of food. If you're ingesting less calories, you have less calories to burn through digestion, which means that that number for our total daily calories is also going to slightly go down based off of the amount of calories you're putting in as well. So this can make the calorie deficit of 500 calories be more like a calorie deficit of 400 or maybe even 300 calories, because you're not ingesting as much food, you're not digesting as much food either. Now, last we have our exercise activity thermogenesis, and the more cardio you do, the more strength training you do, this is going to be the best bang for your buck when it comes to maintaining your weight loss. Now, not because you can burn a lot of calories. Now, we're not trying to burn as many calories as possible. We obviously want to do our cardio and burn a good amount of calories there, but the main focus of your activity thermogenesis should be to build muscle, because the more muscle you can build, the higher our BMR is going to be. And if we can build more muscle, we can not only increase our BMR, but we can then also feel stronger, as well as lift more weight and look better at the same time. So, as well as having more muscle mass does loads of other things for your health and longevity, but that's just a few of them. Now, What we need to do is we need to increase the amount of activity that we're doing throughout the day. So that way we can increase the amount of muscle mass on our frame. So that way we can increase our basal metabolic rate. So that way when we do reduce our calories from the calories in part of the equation, we can then have our BMR be raised as we're decreasing those calories. So that way everything else that decreases, because this is going to decrease, this is going to decrease, it's going to lower the deficit that we're actually in. So all in all, by increasing our activity, by building more muscle, we can increase our BMR, our basal metabolic rate, and this will reduce the likelihood that we're going to run into a plateau. Now, what happens if we do run into a plateau? First, we need to evaluate our calorie intake. Are we consistently decreasing our calories as we lose weight? So if you're eating, say, 2,000 calories a day and you weigh 400 pounds, when you get to 300 pounds, are you still eating 2,000 calories? Because that might be your new maintenance, and thereby making you no longer start to lose weight. So in that case, you would need to recalculate your total daily energy expenditure via what we just went over, and then decrease those calories by 500 again. Now, if you can consistently do that, obviously your caloric intake is going to decrease and decrease and decrease unless you're increasing the amount of muscle on your frame, because again, this will raise your basal metabolic rate, which is really important when it comes to maintaining a healthy body. So if we decrease our calories a ton, but then our amount of calories that we're eating lines up with our new maintenance, we're not going to lose weight. So all we need to do is make sure that we decrease our calories even further, but not so far down to the point that we're starving ourselves either. Now, I didn't really mention this in the beginning, but if we decrease our calories too quickly, too fast, in the calories in portion of the equation, what happens is your body will also lose a ton of muscle mass. This will decrease your basal metabolic rate, and this is why calories in, calories out does not work for the long term if you are someone that is trying to just lose weight. Weight loss and fat loss are two completely different things and need to be separated and treated as such. So weight loss without muscle building is not a sustainable lifestyle. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be a gym rat. If you want to figure out what a good healthy program that can fit into your day-to-day weekly schedule, make sure you watch this video next where I go in deep dive how anyone can start building muscle today without any excuses. So go ahead and watch that video after you watch this video. So that's going to be it for the calories out portion of the two-part series for the calories in, calories out equation. Make sure you like and subscribe so that way you don't miss the next part of the video, which is going to be going over the calories in part of the equation, where I'll be going more in depth on how you can effectively decrease your calories intake without suffering on a diet. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you like and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you get notified when that video drops. My name is Josh, and I'll see you inside of the Sweat Sphere.